A question that has long been pondered is what happens to us when we die? There are many shows and movies out there that bring in differing points of view, and there's even some that look at the futuristic possibility of storing our consciousness in a digital format. The Amazon original series Upload from creator Greg Daniels, who brought us The Office, Parks and Rec, Space Force, among others, takes a look at what could be if you were able to send your life to the cloud. In the near future, after an accident, a programmer has his consciousness uploaded to the cloud so that he could basically live forever. Robbie Amell, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, he stars as Nathan. He's our programmer who gets himself uploaded into the cloud. Now, he's a bit full of himself, but I do like that he has the opportunity for growth. He's got some really good comedic timing. I mean, he's got great chemistry with a lot of the characters and a lot of the actors that he comes in contact with. And then he becomes just very likable as a person. Allo is Nora, who is Nathan's angel. I mean, think of it kind of like a customer service rep for people who have been uploaded into the cloud. She's sweet and she's intelligent, and she has really good chemistry with Robbie Amell. Allegra Edwards is Ingrid, Nathan's girlfriend. And at the beginning, she was not likable at all. She's also self-centered and arrogant, but kind of in a different way from Nathan. And that's funny because, I mean, he's that way too at the beginning, but in his own right. And so they don't seem like a good match at all. That also does help to set up some of the conflict that goes on through the story, which is needed. Ingrid does grow on you though. I mean, even though she's annoying and she's still kind of self-centered, you begin to see more of her heart. And deep down in there is somebody nice. There's a great supporting cast with this as well. There's Zainab Johnson, who plays Alicia, and she is Nora's friend and co-worker, another angel. And this girl is fierce. She is blunt. She is right to the point, but she's also hilarious. I mean, her timing is so good in her line delivery. And there's also a point where it involves her having to do a dance. And her dance moves are awesome, but in the context and the situation, it was just hilarious, especially because she's living in a real world. She's taking care of people in kind of a virtual reality space. And so she's wearing goggles and doing her dance. And it's just, you know, whenever you see somebody wearing virtual reality stuff and they're interacting, but nobody else gets to see what they're interacting with, I mean, that's just a whole lot of fun right there. There's Kevin Begley as Luke, and he becomes one of Nathan's friends in the uploaded world. He's kind of a chauvinist, kind of an Arrested Development type of guy, but he also has some good qualities as well. He's there for some comedic moments. He's there for a little bit of egging on, and maybe talk you into something that you probably shouldn't do. But he also has some funny moments as well. Reese Slack is Dylan, and he's in the uploaded world as well. And he's a kid. And so that does play into some of the story, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, of just some of the points that I really appreciate that they put in this, but also the questions then that they raise with the story. But he does have a character moment which adds a lot of fun, and you kind of see it coming, but it still doesn't matter because he plays it well, the characters all play it well, and it adds just a really good comic moment. And finally, there's Owen Daniels, who is the AI guy. And in the uploaded world, he's everywhere because he's an AI. And so you get to watch him just interact. And because it's AI, artificial intelligence, you see that it's kind of learning a little bit. It's also developing its own personality as well. And so while you never see him have a name, at least that I remember, his interactions with Robbie Amell's character become awkward and funny. And just because the dude can be everywhere and is everywhere, they play a lot with that. Because this is the near future and it's dealing with virtual reality, you better hope that the special effects are good. And luckily they are in this. I mean, they're pretty spot on. I mean, we have self-driving cars. We have just what happens within the uploaded world itself. The characters inside the uploaded world, as well as just in real life, have these phones and they're able to go like this and the screen is right here in your hand. And so when you want to hang up on somebody, you just go like this. And if you answer your phone and you just do this, well, it's audio only. But when they do this, you get to see the screen, and it's just pretty cool, and it works, and it's fairly seamless. There's also some times where a server kind of has a hiccup, and what that does to the uploaded characters, very creative. I really liked that. Also with the special effects, they get to play with bodies, which I think is funny because they just, I mean, think it's not a real person. It's an avatar that once you're uploaded, it's just your consciousness in this virtual space. And so the customer service people who are responsible for creating avatars, they can have a lot of fun with that, which also then leads to some questions of ethics and just behavior that we get to address outside as viewers. Now, this isn't a new concept for a story. I mean, two that just come right off the top of my head is Transcendence with Johnny Depp. And then even think back to the early 90s with Lawnmower Man. I mean, it shares a little bit of this as well. I'm certain that there are probably other stories that share this kind of concept, but just because it's not a brand new concept doesn't necessarily detract from the enjoyment of the story, because I think on how they attack that and how they execute it is really fun. Now, this did take me about 2 episodes to really become engaged, but I'm so glad that I stuck with it because I became really invested, and then I found myself binging several episodes back to back to back. Along with the comedy, there's also some mystery built into the story, and I appreciate that because it just adds to the story value itself, but also provides longevity for the series, because it's not just watching somebody in their daily life in an uploaded world where that could get very old very quickly. And they get to have a lot of fun with the business side of the whole uploaded world. I mean, you have the concept of star ratings and then even customer service feedback. I mean, I don't think they had a character named Karen or Susan, but that would have been a lot of fun. But you also have these people in the uploaded world yelling for customer service, and then all of a sudden an angel appears or their supervisor appears, and their whole job is dependent on how many stars you can get. And so it really becomes just a totally pleasing, yeah, okay, whatever, what do you need, what do you want, regardless if it's ethical or not. They play with the concept of in-app purchases, which I think is very timely and very relevant because we all download apps, and even if they're free, well, if you want to go past this certain little bit, you have to pay more. And so it's no different in the virtual uploaded world. And one question that I don't think they've totally addressed, or really maybe even addressed at all yet, is what happens when your benefactor stops paying for your upload space, or maybe you had this nest egg that allowed you to do that, whether it was a life insurance policy or whatever. What happens when that money runs out? What happens to you? Where do you go? Do they just kind of delete you from their server? I mean, I think about when I was in Guatemala a bunch of years ago, I went to a cemetery and it was right next to a dump. And there it was crazy because I noticed on the side of the hill from the cemetery to the dump were caskets. And basically they rented their grave space. And if the family couldn't pay or stopped paying or all the family members had died, well, off the cliff, and hey, look, we have a new opening for a gravesite. I mean, I know that's grim, but that is reality. And so I think that can play into this story as well. They may not have addressed it totally yet, and maybe it's on their roadmap to do so, but it will be interesting to see how that plays into it. It's an easy, quick watch. I mean, it's 10 episodes. They're all about 30 minutes each, but it's not a shallow watch. There's moments where they talk about consciousness versus soul. I mean, Nora and her dad have a really good conversation, and it's poignant, and it makes you think a little bit, and I hope it will. I hope it makes you think, because it was deep, and their conversation, while they not necessarily see eye to eye on things, they could have a rational discussion, and the points that each brought up were good to explore. They also question the ethics of uploading unnecessarily. I mean, think about it. Like, if you're close to dying, then sure, that might be the great option for you so that you can just continue to live. But what happens if you're in your 20s and you're just like, you know what, I'm bored with Earth, let's go. So they raise that as well. And then one of the things that they do kind of address a little bit, but is age. Because like to Dylan, the kid in the story, he's stuck as a kid, even though he's been in there long enough for him to be like 19 or 20. But his body doesn't reflect that. And part of that is because his family, who is paying for him to be there, they want to remember him as he was. And so he gets to be stuck as a kid, I don't know, 12 years old, something like that. Think of the conflict that that brings. And I like that they just raise that question in this show. They also address the have and the have-nots because there is a 2 gig space within this particular upload cloud. And it is for rich people, but even within this cloud for rich people, there's the bottom of the barrel, the 2G, the 2 gig space. So when they run out of data for the month, ooh, it's a little grim. Now, there are a couple of loose ends in this that weren't tied up playing out. Maybe they'll address it in the next season just to kind of tie that up a little bit, and it does play into the mystery some, so I can see how they can string that along. This was a great watch with fun actors and a surprisingly deep but not overbearing story. There's sex, nudity, profanity, and some violence. I give Upload 4.5 out of 5 couches. So if you had the opportunity to upload your consciousness to the cloud, would you? And at what point would you do that? Would you wait until you were close to death, or would you just like, it's Tuesday, I'm bored, I'm done, let's go? Either way, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris, this is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.